Hello YouTube and people of the internet, Finnagain here. This is a video that I've been wanting to make for a really long time, but chamomile tea or chamomile, depending on where you're from. This is a video I've wanted to make for a really long time, but just haven't gotten around to it. And here I am getting around to it. What I'm going to be doing in today's video is doing a short breakdown of how I make music, essentially. And I am by no means an expert. I really have only been in the musical scene for a couple of years, and there is infinite things to learn in the realm of music. This is kind of just for fun. And I mean, I do have 60 or so published songs that I spent a lot of time on, and yeah, I just want to show people how I go about making music when I do it. If you have any suggestions or helpful tips, drop them in the comments, let me know. Otherwise, let's get started. So when I go to make music, I just so happen to use Logic Pro 10, and it is not opening for whatever reason. You guys get to see my projects that I'm working on right now. I usually have to open a project I'm working on in order to start a new track. But I'm gonna go up to File, New, and I'm gonna close out of this one because we're not working on that today. And Logic Pro 10 will usually give you the option to start a new track. When you do, you get to pick between software instrument, audio, drummer, external guitar or bass. I am gonna go with software instrument. It doesn't really matter for the first track which one you pick. The default software instrument is this classic electric piano. If you want to change this, there are numerous things here on the left-hand side, as you can see, that you can use to do that. If you wanted to play the electric piano, you could hit Command K on your keyboard and you can play it just like that. Or you can plug in a MIDI keyboard, which I do have here. I use this sometimes. It depends on what I'm trying to play. But just to go ahead and get started here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay down. Usually when I make tracks, I like to think about what kind of emotions I want to enact, and based on that, I'll select a key that I want to play in so that the rest of my project stays in the same key and I don't have to guess or try and figure it out later. So for the start right here, I'm gonna start with the classic electric piano, and I'm gonna say that I want this track to be happy. And if you know anything about like the physics of music and the way it like messes with your brain, so what I did right here is I created a MIDI region, which MIDI is known as it's like musical electric notes. There actually, you can look up what MIDI stands for. It's essentially it's a way of the software keeping track of what notes you're playing, and then you can use those notes and apply them to any instrument. So anyway, right now I'm going to create the most generic thing ever, and I'm going to select 4/4, which is the time signature here, and then the tempo of 120. This is really, really basic. And right now I'm going to create some notes here in C major. In Logic Pro 10, there's a really, really great feature that you can select by clicking the tools here. I like to use my secondary tool as the paint tool, or the brush tool, if you will. In order to access the secondary tool, you just press Command on your keyboard and it will switch once you're in this MIDI region here. See, when I press Command, it activates that brush tool. And the next thing that I'm going to do, so in Logic Pro 10, as I was saying, there's a really neat feature, and the brush tool allows you to play notes that are perfectly in key. And essentially what this looks like, if I select a note, say that I want to do a full note. So right here, I dragged this section of MIDI out 4 bars. You see, you can count 1, 2, 3, 4. I know it says it goes to 5, but you see the full block, 1, 2, 3, 4 bars right here. And I'm going to create 4 notes. I'm going to go 1, I'm going to hit Command, and using the brush tool, I am going to create 1, 2, 3, 4. But before I do that, you have to hit Scale Quantize, and I'm going to have a happy song, so I'm going to select C major. And C major is just a happy tune to play. And to start off, I want a chord and not just a single note. If you wanted to just create single notes, we'll do that later. But to start off, I'm going to create a chord, and I'm going to create it between octave 3 and octave 4 here, or C3 and C4. And it's just going to be kind of random. Usually when I create chords, I try and use 2 of the same notes in the chord so that it's consistent, but you kind of just have to change it and listen for what sounds good. So now that I've created these notes, I'm going to listen to them and see if it makes any sense or sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, so I liked all of that until this last part. Listen again. I like that. That sounds good. Also note that I'm mixing out of my laptop right now. Later when I mix with bass and stuff, I'll hook up to a speaker and then listen for bass, but I'm not going to do that right now because it doesn't really matter. So yeah, so now I have 4 chords here set up. This is really basic. I am just going to leave it as the classic electric piano because it doesn't really matter all too much. And I want these 4 chords to be happening the entire time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click here, or 2-finger click from my Mac, and I'm going to hit loop on off, and it's going to loop it. And as you can see, if I zoom out here, or if I use the zoom tool located here, in and out, you can do horizontal zoom this way, you can see that it goes on forever. And yeah, so this is the 4 chords that are playing. There's not really any spice to it. To make it sound a bit more full, I'm going to hit new track with duplicate settings, and I'm going to play the same thing again. But what I'm going to do, I should have just explained what I just did. So I just took this track here and I hit Command C and I copied it, and then I took the playhead and I moved it to the beginning, and then I hit paste to make sure that this is starting in the same location right here. And then I zoomed in. Oh man, it's weird to be talking about what I'm doing because I feel like I've done this so many times that it's just second nature. So now I selected this MIDI region here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Edit, and I'm going to select all of the notes that are in this MIDI region, and as you can see, they light up right here, and this means they're all selected. What I'm going to do to create a little bit more of a full sound is I'm going to duplicate these notes, but I'm going to make them a lower octave. So I'm going to hit Edit again with all the notes selected, and I'm going to hit Transpose, and I'm going to do -12 semitones, which is equivalent to an octave. So I will send them down, and now when I play this, it sounds a lot more full. Technically it's like the same notes, but there's a lot more substance there. And also when you mix, you usually want to be mixing at a lower decibel, not at 0. But for the sake of the audio hearing me, as you can see, I'm running audio off of another camera. Hopefully it turns out halfway decent, then I'm recording on my phone. Okay, so the next thing that I would usually do here is I would add in another instrument. For this case, let's not have it be the classic electric piano because I haven't really been using that. For a good bass with chords, I've been using grand piano and pad as one of them, which sounds like this. And then to supplement that, I also have been doing I've been using flutes. And in the sound library, which is selected here in this top left menu, see how you can select all these different things. No, I don't want the info help on. This menu right here will allow you to search for anything in the library. Also, if you do need help, the quick help button is pretty awesome in Logic. If you just click on it, it will bring up little information bits about everything in Logic. It's honestly really, really helpful if you are a beginner on Logic, just hitting that quick help button and then letting it light up everything. So anyway, I am in here, the musical library, and I'm gonna search for flutes right here. And there it is, flutes, woohoo! And then flutes sound like that. And you can see that flutes are actually a bit delayed, and the grand piano and pad is a little bit quicker on the attack. See how it happens right away, it's boom. And then the flutes are a little bit more delayed. They're a little more delayed. So you get this attack and then this nice delay with the flutes that ends up sounding really, really good. Also, these buttons here that I'm using are S is for solo. So when I want to only listen to one track, I hit S for solo. The R is record, M is mute. And then if I want to get rid of anything that's soloed, I just hit the clear and recall solo, which gets rid of all of the solos. And now they all sound like this. And it sounds a little bit better. So now I'm going, right now, this is, you could say, a melody, if you will, but not really. It's kind of just like background chords. I'm gonna create a main melody by hitting New Software Instrument Track, Create MIDI Region. Then I'm gonna drag this MIDI region here. And to add a little bit more fullness, I would usually drag it over, but this is just for learning purposes, so I'm gonna go ahead and select that. And then I'm gonna create something in between C3 and C4 because this is just where I like to work. I'm also gonna continue using the brush tool here so that I know that the notes that I'm creating are still in C major, as you can see right here. So for this, I'm gonna use eighth notes, and I'm just gonna create a random progression. Obviously, when you start out in music, everything's kind of random, but the more that you do it, the more sense it's going to make and the better you're gonna get at creating more organic melodies. So I'm just gonna create something random here. And then you can kind of listen to it with the other instruments. I'm gonna turn down these other instruments actually, because I don't want them to have as much presence. I'm kind of liking this, but I think it should be a bit slower. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to move these all over, or I could recreate them as quarter notes, but this will take just about the same amount of time. So what I'm doing is I'm dragging them out, and then I'm going to select all the notes and I'm going to turn them into quarter notes. Just to space them out better. So what I did there is I selected all of the notes and then dragged them out in equal parts so that they would be all the same length. And now I'm going to switch and use quarter notes so that I don't have to do that again. Bum 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 bum. So that one should come back again. So what I'm going to do is copy all four of those. I'm going to use that same those same four notes again, and then I'm going to copy them and paste them in this third to fourth bar right here. Might sound bad. So I'm thinking, I can't tell. A lot of music making is just listening, and you have to hear if it sounds right. And I really will say that that's just practice of knowing what sounds right. There's really no correct way to do it. That is the cool thing though. There's no right way to do music. You can do it however you want. If you think it sounds good, send it. Na, 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 na. So I like this na 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 na. So you can kind of hear that. You can make up those melodies in your head, and that is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna add a da 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 da, which is gonna be da 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 da, and you don't want that last note to be the same, so I'm gonna make it da 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 da. Actually, it might work because I did it right here as well. So let's see. Right now I'm hitting enter also to restart. I take my playhead, which is this guy right here, and if you ever want it to go to the beginning of the project, just hit enter. Then spacebar to start. I think that second note should carry out for a bit longer, so I'm gonna drag it out. Do 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 do. Huh. Maybe move that over. That was not what I wanted to do. Oh, whoops. Do 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 do. Maybe that is it. I could be tripping right now. I'm gonna try and create another note. Possibly that's why it sounds weird. Oh, that's it right there. I needed to move the note over. See, that's a lot of music making, is just trial and error. I gotta make sure that the audio here is still running. Are we good? We are chilling at 16 minutes too. Man, I figured this video wouldn't actually end up being this long, but dang. Okay, so we have a melody here. I don't really think I want it to be the classical electric piano. I think what I want it to be instead is something spicier. So what I'm gonna do is, over in this area right here that says electric piano, you can select this big intimidating list of things. These are all of your like synthesizer synthesizer options, I guess, in Logic Pro 10. Alchemy is a good one to start with if you're looking to start with one. You go to Alchemy and you hit stereo, and it'll bring you up to this whole intimidating list, but check it out. So right now, this is on Alchemy now, and as you can see, it says it right here. Instead of electric piano, it says Alchemy. And you can essentially select you can select what you want, whatever instrument you want. It has a wide list. I want something that's sharp, and I can kind of explain what that means, but essentially what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through and just like look for stuff. So I'm gonna select leads, because I want this to be a lead melody. I think a digital sound would be kind of cool, and just listen to some of these. Maybe an etched bass. And in order to listen to them, what I'm gonna do is this area up here, as you can see, there's a little block, this cycle range. You can select this and see how it turns this like yellowish color. You can look at that yellowish color, and that means that it's going to loop indefinitely. And that's what that little loop cycle thing C is on for. So now when I press play, it'll just play it over and over again. And I hate the sound of that bass. That is awful. So now I can select other things and see if they sound good. That's awful as well. That's also awful. That's kind of interesting. Maybe if I had one that was a little nasty, dirt, thick. Oh God! All right, I am not liking the leads in this. Let's try something soft. Dream Science Pad. That doesn't have enough attack for me. Liquid Breath Flute. So right here, you can also select different iterations of the Alchemy instruments, which is what I'm doing. This does not want to work. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to search, because I know one that I think I want. I think there's one called Water Rings that is pretty sick. Ah, yes. Is that the one I want? Question mark? So now I'm selecting a different instance of the Water Ring. So this is really interesting. Sometimes there's presets in Logic that actually, they change the MIDI by changing the timing of it. And as you can see, this zapped ARP changes the timing of it by doubling the timing of the notes. So you originally had quarter notes that you input in there, but it's changing it to eighth notes. And you'll find presets that do that, and just something to be aware of. Ooh, I like that. Hell yeah. Okay, so I like that. I'm gonna use that as my main melody. Gosh, it's so weird talking about everything while I do it. There's just so much things, so many like little things that you just have to remember. When you are using instruments, there's a whole list of effects right here that you can add to them. And the way that the Logic Pro 10 effects work is they start from the top and they go to the bottom. So whatever you use at the top is going to be enacted first and then go to the bottom. And as you can see, this grand piano and pad comes naturally with an EQ. And the EQ actually, as you can see, is empty. If I turn on the analyzer, why is it not coming up? It might be because there's multiple instruments down here. That's honestly probably why. Maybe it comes up here. Oh, there we go. Why is it only coming up on the pad though? That's really weird. Okay, here we go. So this analyzer here, you can see the EQ. EQ is extremely important when you're making music because it is everything. It is like, this is your entire mix right here on the EQ. Sounds exist from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. Your ear itself is really only going to absorb, around the 100 to like, 8,000 range. I don't know that for sure. Don't quote me on that. But mostly what you need to know is that bass tones are down here in the like 100, 200 area, and then mid tones, and then, the higher, sharper stuff. So depending on how I want this piano to sound, I can select parts of the EQ and manipulate it. So for instance, if I'm soloing out the piano, it sounds like that. I don't know if you can really hear that. Let me turn that up. So say I don't like how sharp it is at the top there, I could select that high EQ by clicking on the purple guy, and I can drag it down to -24. And I could even kind of keep that low end a bit closer, and that makes it sound a little bit more clean. So I'm gonna actually do that same thing to the flutes so that they're EQ'd similar, in a similar way. Where is the purple EQs all the way back here? Beautiful. And then turn these back down. Water rings. Okay, so audio effects, go into EQ. Whoop. So as you can hear with the water rings, they have a lot of like sound coming up in the lower end. I really don't want any of that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just get rid of that low end sound, and I'm gonna boost it in the higher end, make it sound a bit different here. And then all together. So at this point, what I would do next, if I was vibing with this track, is I would start to add drums and probably play some guitar to go along with it. Yeah, but that might have to wait for another video because this video is already at 24 minutes. Jeez Louise, that's crazy. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like or drop a comment if you have anything to say. This was the first. I'll maybe try and come up with like little things to teach so the videos don't actually end up being this long. This was just kind of like a random thing I wanted to try. But anyway, that's a starting melody in Logic. This is Finnagain signing off.